So my name is Staff Sergeant Brian McIntyre-Ray. I'm command post for the 573rd GSS. It's a unit within the CRW, the 621st CRW specifically. What we do is we go out around the world and provide air mobility capabilities where there are none, such as dirt strips or maybe foreign airfields that just don't have the AMC presence, or a transcom presence. Just depends on what type of tasking it is.
He's past average, he's into exceptional and has a lot of velocity.
In the end, I really like to know what I'm talking about, because I think if you're invested and you care enough, you should know all angles, not just what is assigned to you.
You have to learn that job, and you have to be ready to adapt quickly to your environment and make the mission happen, because at the end of the day, it's all about the mission.
Well, I think for one, he respects everybody. He really takes the time to get to know who you are, which is surprising at his age.
He's a little too wise sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, dude, I feel like you're old. Like you have a young body, but an old person in a young body.
My father used to tell us all the time. He had 4 boys, so when I had a daughter, he was like, "I can't help you." But he used to tell me that when he became a father, his job was to make sure we were the best men possible, that we were better than him. And my job is to make sure that my daughter sees the best man possible. To make sure that when she sees me, she says, "I want a man like Dad."
He is the ideal airman. That's who he is. He is the epitome of wingmanship and airmanship.
Even if you don't know when you show up in the Air Force about resiliency and those type of things, we're going to tell you, we're going to test you on it. You're going to be tested on it. Just from being in the Air Force and being tasked and asked to be a member of the military, your resiliency will be tested for sure.
So in 2011, I was in between deployments, and I was a maintainer at the time, and I was at Ellsworth, South Dakota.
And a lot of people don't necessarily care for it because of the weather, and there isn't a lot of big cities around. A lot of people keep to themselves, especially in the winter months, because it gets so cold, and they keep inside while they're there instead of getting out and doing stuff like that.
Sergeant Peterson was one of the 2 staff sergeants on shift. He was hydraulics by trade. There was only other avionics staff sergeant on the shift that was involved in teaching us how to work on aircraft. Now you may say, okay, he's hydraulics, you're avionics, what are you going to learn? But if you're learning an aircraft, it's really all the same thing. And trust me, we did a lot of jobs together.
It was a small knit group, maintenance mentality. We worked together. We gave each other hard times quite often, but it was all in love. Honestly, it was a family.
One day we're working on actuators, we're fixing stuff. We knew we're gonna have to do more the next day, and the next day he's not there.
He was supposed to be going TDY to Australia, and he didn't show up for actually leaving for the TDY. And everybody was trying to find him to find out where he was going, because it was out of character of him. He was always on time. He was a very good NCO, and then unfortunately we were informed by the local police that they had found him.
And after we were told the next day that Sergeant Peterson, went and shot himself with a shotgun. He went up to the Black Hills and shot himself with a shotgun. And we're sitting on the truck after we were told this, after they called us in, told us this, information. We're back sitting on the truck, and in silence. What do we do? Nope, there's no card playing. There's no trash talking. There's nothing. There's silence.
And unfortunately, when he did commit suicide, it was a shock, honestly.
To lose somebody like that right after him holding us to that standard, it brings confusion to an already confusing job of when you're looking for answers and you're looking for somewhere to go.
There was one individual that we worked with they were best friends, Sergeant Jones, and he took it extremely hard. He actually was on the trip to Australia, and he'd gone and then found out while he was on the way there that his best friend had committed suicide. And he took it extremely hard, and he couldn't perform down there because it had hurt him so bad and hit him so hard.
I wish it didn't take this to bring us to the next level, to show what it really means to have a wingman. And people take that for granted when they say, well, be a wingman, make sure they don't drink and drive or do some other stuff, which is still important, don't drink and drive. But just let you know, it's when you really see that being a wingman really, and just any relationship, is really just being there. I mean, I didn't really have to say anything just to be there, just to put my hand on his shoulder and watch his blues get soaked.
When I joined the Air Force, I really understood what a wingman is. I understood what it is. I learned the description and the definition of a wingman. But in meeting Brian, I felt what a wingman is.
It took a while for me to really look back at it and see, okay, this is what really happened. This is what really came of it. This is what projected us to become better people and better airmen and better wingmen and better maintainers and better fathers and better husbands, all this stuff, because you're like, okay, this whole thing affects so much more than just one person, one family.
Even the bad things that happen, there's a positive in everything what we do. If there wasn't something bad, there'd be no compassion, no feeling to get up and keep doing things. So I know it's just a word, but I guess for the most part, it's the power within oneself to get up and do what's right.
I remember sitting in commander's calls and, when I was a young lieutenant and looking at the old guy up in front of the squadron and listening to his vision and direction for the unit. And, I turn around what seems like just a few years later, which is in fact 20, and I'm that guy now. Understanding that those younger faces that I'm looking at are our future. It's good to know that these training plans are in place that used to not be there. That we talk about these things, that we get it out on the table, and we train to it so that when we go execute the mission, we're better.
After meeting Brian, I've done my best to not complain. Let's think about the good things that are happening. And since meeting him in just a short time span, I've been able to just wake up in the morning and say, today's going to be a great day.
Certainly, Mac-Ray's got the, he's got the tools and the talent, and understands how resiliency plays into his career. But you know what? I don't think that he deliberately thinks about resiliency stuff.
Brian is Brian. He's never, Sergeant McIntyre-Ray right here, but then after 5 o'clock, then you can come and meet Brian. He's the exact same person in and outside of his uniform.
He just takes everything in stride. He listens to what's going to happen, he analyzes it, and then he just goes forth and conquers.
I've got a lot of those young folks in the squadron that certainly use him as an example, but are right on his heels.
It's pride, enthusiasm, and passion. And those 3 words are exactly what resiliency is.
I guess if I could put a face to resiliency, Sergeant McIntyre-Ray would be that face.
These brothers and sisters that I go to work with every day, that's why I go to work. That's why I deploy. That's why I put in the effort. That's why I stay later. Because I know me staying 10, 15, 20 minutes, an hour later will take a load off of them, because I know what they've got on their plate already.